My name is Abigail Amufa, a volunteer on this oral history project. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Councillor Steve Radford. I've represented the Tuebrook area for now 43 years, and I'm leader of the Liberal Party group. Can I stress that's Liberal, not Liberal Democrat? And I'm a manager at the Tuebrook Hope Centre, a community charity, which is not religious, but I also do the fundraising for our church at Christ Church.
Okay. As a politician, you gave a rousing speech at the launch of the Oral History Project on the need for cultural integration and allowing different ethnicities to thrive equally. Why is that important for community relation?
I think it's just like my views on religious differences. One can have one's own values. One should not have to apologise or hide one's values, but one can share them and respect other people have other values and other traditions. And that's true of religious faith, that's true of culture. And I had great advantage when I was younger. I went to a school where a lot of the parents were from the military or worked overseas, and we had a lot of education which focused on African and Asian history and how the Commonwealth and the Empire evolved and our relationships with the world. So I think we live in a global community, we live in a global village, and appreciating other people's culture and traditions is useful to communicate, and we should all celebrate our different cultures. One doesn't detract from another.
You have lived in and around the Kensington area for almost 50 years now, and the place has changed drastically. Where did you initially came from, and how would you describe the changes that are happening in this area?
I originally came, my family were brought up in West Surrey, Guildford and Farnham. I then went to Warwick University in the Midlands in Coventry, and I went for I got 3 job offers, 2 in the London area and 1 here in Liverpool. And I really fancied Liverpool. I came up, and at that time my first flat was in Fairfield, which is just down the road from Kensington. At that time, the whole of Edge Lane was full of really busy factories. I worked at Plessy Telecommunications, which later became GPT Marconi. That was a really busy factory. We had 4,500 employees there when I joined. There was Meccano's and Stovies. There was the transport depot. The whole of Edge Lane was full of buses at works time out. And with the industrial changes, with so much work and manufacturing work going abroad, it really imploded the economy in this part of the city. And we've seen one by one of the other companies fold. I was also involved when Plessy started working with English Estates to start the Wavertree Technology Park, and I think that was successful. And at one point I recall we had an opportunity to even bring half as many companies more in if we had space, and I think that was a big missed opportunity for the city. So I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of them very sad changes, and I've seen the depopulation of the area, and then the council's policy of demolitions drove the depopulation even further. So I think that's been a regressive change.
Any idea where religious worship and the church, whether Anglican, Baptist or Pentecostal, will be in the next 100 years? Will the church one day be so old-fashioned people stop attending?
I hope not. I can't. I'm not pretending to be a prophet, biblical or otherwise. I hope the church will carry on being a leader of vision. Throughout our history in this country, we've had periods of great religious revivals. Wesley, who founded the Methodist Church, brought a religious revival and represented a new style of worship. And we've had religious revivals at the turn of the century. One doesn't know what's going to bring, but I think all we can do is do what we think is right, give leadership to our communities, and keep our doors open and learn from each other experiences. And I think, if I be truthful, the Pentecostal churches have brought a great revival back to religious worship in this country, It may not be my style or may not be everybody's style. We're also seeing great progress in the Orthodox communities, religious communities, and I had great joy in meeting some of the Ukrainian and Greek Patriarch Church from Antioch. So one doesn't know what God's bring, but we should have faith and we should support each other and maybe learn from each other with the humility.
As a politician, did politics influence your religion or your religion influence your politics?
I think both of them came from very similar overlapping values. I think probably if there was an emphasis, my interest in history and my interest on the evolution of religious and social movements. I studied at university Weber's theories of the Protestant work ethic and those changes in society. So I think there was a mutual overlapping, I couldn't say one led to the other, but I think there is a sort of a common thread of values and a belief about how society can and should change. And also the importance of the freedom of the individual in society is very much distinctive in the Free Church tradition, rather than those churches which have a very much more rigid view of, you know, the Archbishop will tell you what the Bishop could tell you, so the Bishop could tell you what you're supposed to believe. No, I think that there is a mutual flow of values and outlooks that reinforce each other.
Any other thing you want to add?
I think one of the saddest changes in British society is those people who articulate that we should be culturally multicultural are using that platform to try and repress our own Christian heritage. I use an example. I campaigned for gay rights all my adult life, but I haven't argued for gay rights to replace the harassment and discrimination against gay people with harassment and discrimination against Orthodox Christians. As a councillor, I think I was probably the only councillor who said Billy Graham should come to be able to speak in Liverpool. I should have the right to disagree with him, but he should have the right to preach his evangelical views even if I disagree with him. And I think freedom of speech is under attack, and the platform of multiculturalism and also gay rights is being used to repress genuine different religious traditions who are equally valid. And whilst I may all agree with them or may not disagree with them, I think freedom is being eroded by a sort of social conformity, and I think that's a dangerous influence in our country, and it's not where I'd like us to be. I believe we should have the freedom to understand each other's views, disagree as friends, and respect those differences. What I don't like in British society is we're seeing involvements like, you can't say something that someone will disagree with because you might upset them. And I think that's very sinister, and I think that's a slippery slope I feel very uncomfortable about. In the council, I have used I have seen the council's code of conduct and showing of respect as a way of weaponising councillors being prevented to ask critical questions or cross-examine evidence or challenge what were corrupt practices by other councillors or council officials. And I think this sort of so-called respect agenda is being used to turn on its head to create a very Orwellian society where people are not prepared to speak up and say, sorry, I don't agree with you, but I respect your right to express your views, whether that's in politics or religion or culture or history. And I think that's somewhere we need to say, hang on, ooh, this has gone too far.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.